Welcome to The Legacy, the Imam Hussein Exhibition 2015. This is the family tree of Imam Hussein, which outlines the Imam's direct lineage from Prophet Adam, the first of mankind. The family tree highlights the prophets of the major religions of the world, such as Jesus, son of Mary, and Moses, who are lightened to emphasize their importance, not only in the lineage, but in the eternal message of Karbala. Each prophet of God had a duty to convey a message to the people of their time to ensure the religion of Islam continued to be spread. As Imam Hussein was a descendant of this holy lineage, he too had this responsibility. Imam Hussein was a man like no other. This timeline highlights the main events that happened during Imam Hussein's lifetime in Medina, as well as the end of his life, in his late 50s, when he began to make the journey towards Karbala. Imam Hussein is the second son of Fatima al-Zahra and Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. He was born on the 3rd of Sha'ban in the 4th year of Hijri. Upon his birth, the Holy Prophet arrived at the house of his daughter, took the baby in his arms and said the adhan and iqamah in his ears. People around the Prophet saw tears in his eyes. Fatima asked why the Prophet showed such sadness, and he told her that her son will become a martyr. It was only for 7 years that the Holy Prophet was a grandfather before he died, and soon after, Hussein's mother, Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, also died. The next 25 years of Imam Hussein's life in Medina was spent with his father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, his brother Hassan, and his other brothers and sisters. Imam Hussein's main activity in Medina was to see that the people there were aware of the true ways of Islam. He also managed the trust set up by his father, Imam Ali, which provided aid to the poor of the city in the form of food and other necessities. This was the true Islamic welfare state in action, with the aim being that every hungry mouth was fed, every naked person was clothed, and every unsheltered person was provided with a roof over his head. Imam Hussein is an example of humbleness and modesty. People respected him to the extent that when he used to perform the pilgrimage of Hajj, all the dignitaries and the grand companions used to descend from their horses to walk beside him. This respect for Imam Hussein was not because he had expensive horses or an entourage of soldiers and servants. It was also not because of materialism that they reserved the Mosque of the Prophet for Imam Hussein's arrival, or why they made a passage through the crowd for him. They respected him for his modesty and humbleness, and for being a man of the people and living amongst them instead of living in detachment from them. This station is a video representation of how the Battle of Karbala unfolded. The short video will aid you in understanding the events that led to the day of Ashura. On the 28th of Safar, 11 after Hijrah, Prophet Muhammad passed away. Following the appointment of Imam Ali as his successor on the day of Ghadir, Imam Ali was the rightful caliph of the believers. However, while Imam Ali and his family were attending the burial rites of the Prophet, a group of companions gathered in the outskirts of Medina at a place called Saqifa. They deliberated amongst themselves who should take the reins of leadership now that the Prophet had passed away, and eventually Abu Bakr was appointed. The attack on the house of Lady Fatima, where she was crushed by the force on the door, also took place under his watch. As his life came to an end, he appointed Umar as his successor, again denying Imam Ali from his rightful position as the commander of the faithful. Umar reigned for 10 years, during which time he appointed Muawiyah as the governor of Syria. Upon his death, he appointed a committee of 6 people to decide which one of those 6 people should be the next ruler. This committee included Imam Ali and Uthman. Uthman ruled for 12 years, during which he appointed many of his family members as governors around the Islamic Empire. The tyranny of these governors led to increased unrest by the people, and eventually a group of rebels besieged the house of Uthman. Hassan and Hussein, the sons of Imam Ali, helped to provide food and water to Uthman. Eventually, Uthman was murdered by the rebels. During the rule of Imam Ali, Muawiyah had refused to pledge allegiance and instead roused the people of Syria to fight Imam Ali. He manipulated them by showing them a blooded shirt, claiming it was Uthman's shirt that had been drenched in blood from his assassination and that it needed to be avenged. The Kharijites caused discord for the remainder of Imam Ali's Khalifa, and eventually one of them succeeded in assassinating Imam Ali. Imam Hassan, the son of Ali, was the next rightful leader of the Muslims. Immediately after assuming his rightful role, Muawiyah instigated rebellion. With another war looming and insufficient loyal support to fight him, Imam Hassan agreed to a peace treaty with strict conditions that governed how Muawiyah should rule with Imam Hassan's consent. A breach of these conditions would prove the illegitimacy of Muawiyah. Imam Hassan's wife, Ju'ada, had been promised wealth and the hand of Muawiyah's son Yazid if she agreed to kill Imam Hassan on behalf of Muawiyah. She agreed and mixed poison into a drink that she gave to Imam Hassan, leading to his martyrdom. Muawiyah continued to rule, but before he died, he appointed his son Yazid as the ruler after him. Through these actions, the conditions of the peace treaty were breached. The peace treaty of Imam Hassan proved to be a masterstroke in exposing the illegitimacy of Muawiyah's leadership. Yazid, upon inheriting control from Muawiyah, sensed the lack of legitimacy of his authority and immediately requested for the pledge of allegiance from Imam Hussein. This allegiance would serve to show the people that he was a rightful ruler and deserved to be respected. Imam Hussein had a choice. He could endorse Yazid and allow this tyrant to rule the Islamic Empire unopposed, or he could make a stand and ensure that Yazid's illegitimacy is exposed. In Imam Hussein's own words, he says, "A man like me could never pledge allegiance to a man like Yazid." This station highlights the status and importance of women before, during, and after the Battle of Karbala. It features a number of women of all ages, from the wives of the companions of Imam Hussein to the daughters of Imam Hussein. Just like the companions of Imam Hussein, the woman played a pivotal role in reinforcing the stance of the Imam, from caring for the frail and vulnerable after the battle to martyrdom. Lady Zainab was the sister of the Imam and was held captive after the battle and taken to the courtyard of Yazid, where she recited a speech of such power and potency that it is remembered until today. She had been called the beauty of her father and was the eldest daughter of Imam Ali and the leader and source of inspiration for the women and children in the Imam's caravan. Her legacy is still alive to this day, as it was Lady Zainab who set up the first majlis of mourning for the tragedy of Karbala, even whilst being held captive alongside Imam Zain al-Abidin and the other women. Lady Zainab was 57 when she passed away. This station is a visual and written representation of the companions of Imam Hussein. It describes and illustrates their lives before Karbala and the path they took to serve under Imam Hussein. The companions include the famous generals of Imam Hussein's army, as well as those who were less well known. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was a 55-year-old originally from Yemen. He was one of the flag bearers on the day of Ashura. He killed more than 100 enemy soldiers before he was martyred. Muslim ibn Awsaja originates from Azerbaijan and is known as Abu Jahl. He was a companion of Prophet Muhammad and also a companion of Imam Ali, who taught him the Holy Quran and traditions of the Prophet. He was present during the Caliphate of Umar ibn al-Khattab and was a leading citizen of Kufa. He was amongst those who were writing letters to Imam Hussein inviting him to Kufa. He fought for Imam Ali on 3 occasions: the battles of Camel, Siffin, and Nahrawan. Abbas ibn Abu Shabib was the chief of the clan of Bani Shakar. He was known to be amongst the best and most loyal companions of Imam Hussein. He is a narrator of hadith and is considered to be a knowledgeable man. He is famous for his saying, "The love of Hussein has made me mad," during the Battle of Karbala. Habib ibn Madahir was from the tribe of Bani Asad. He was both a companion of the Prophet and Imam Ali. He was originally in his 20s when the Prophet died, and thus some narrations from the Prophet are passed down through Habib. He fought in all of Imam Ali's battles and was a close friend of Maytham at-Tammar. Imam Hussein wrote a letter to Habib telling him how Yazid's vultures were gathering to kill him. Burayr ibn Khuzair was born 29 years before AH. He was 90 years old during the Battle of Karbala. He is originally from Yemen and he is the head of his tribe, the tribe of Hamadani. He was a companion of Imam Ali and was also named the Abid and Zahid, as he was known for his worship and for reading and teaching the Holy Quran in Kufa, thus also known as the master of the reciters. Wahab was a newly married Christian youth. He was a merchant from Kufa. He was born to Christian parents, but his birth was a miracle in itself. His parents were trying for a child for a long time. They asked Prophet Muhammad to pray for them, and when he did, Wahab was born. He gave his shahada in Karbala and was subsequently martyred. His mother was also the first woman to be martyred in Karbala. Joan ibn Hawi al-Kalabi is an Abyssinian slave who was at the service and a companion of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, and subsequently Imam Hussein. Joan was taught the Holy Quran and the traditions of Prophet Muhammad by Imam Ali. He was freed by Imam Hussein, but Joan chose to remain at Karbala, saying, "O Imam, I wish for my blood to be sacrificed for your sake and the sake of Islam, and asked to be accepted as a companion of Imam Hussein. A day before Ashura, John was responsible for preparing the swords. During the battle, he killed 25 of the army of Umar ibn Sa'd and then attained martyrdom. Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi al-Tamimi. Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi was a high-ranking officer of the Kufan army. He was initially the person responsible for holding Imam Hussein and his followers captive. Hurr ibn Yazid is known for his noble stance of swapping sides. Al-Hurr died fighting on Imam Hussein's behalf, killing more than 40 of the enemy army. When his horse was wounded, he was left defending himself on foot. This station will aid your understanding of the events that led to Ashura. From Imam Hussein's refusal to give allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah to the final Hajj and all the way to Karbala, via a step-by-step journey in which Imam Hussein delivered various sermons. Imam Hussein left Medina on Sunday 29th of Rajab at dawn and arrived at Suqya on Monday 30th of Rajab. On Tuesday 1st of Sha'ban, he arrived at Ghadir Khum. On Wednesday 2nd of Sha'ban, he arrived at Qudayd. On Thursday 3rd of Sha'ban, he arrived at Asfan. It was the evening of the 4th of Sha'ban on a Friday that Imam Hussein arrived to the city of Mecca. As the days of Hajj were approaching, Imam Hussein was informed that Umar ibn Sa'd had already entered the city of Mecca with the intention of assassinating the Imam and causing bloodshed in the holy city of Mecca. Umar ibn Sa'd was Yazid's governor of Medina. Imam Hussein therefore decided to leave Mecca so that the sanctity and divine security of the city would not be compromised, and he changed his intention from performing Hajj to an individual Umrah. It is the 2nd of Muharram 61 AH, and the camp of Imam Hussein arrives in Karbala. This station explains how the events of the Battle of Karbala unfolded, with the use of a sizable model showing an aerial view of the battle, including where both armies were stationed. This horse represents the point where Imam Hussein was brutally killed on the day of Ashura. After all his companions and family members had been killed, Imam Hussein had to face his enemies alone. He went to the tents to bid farewell to the women of his family. As Imam Hussein mounted his horse, Lady Zainab called him to come back down as she had a promise to fulfill. She kissed his neck and embraced his chest. And then, looking towards Medina, she said with a tearful eye, "O Mother Fatima, I have fulfilled your promise that you asked of me." Imam Hussein mounted his horse and made his way to the battlefield once more. He looked towards his right and then towards his left. The bodies of his family and his companions were scattered across the desert. He stood alone, facing an army of thousands. At this moment he cried out, "Is there anyone who is willing to aid me?" The foot soldiers of the enemy army fiercely attacked Imam Hussein from the right and left. He responded to the ones on his right and forced them to flee. He did the same to the foot soldiers on his left and put them to flight. One of the enemies narrates, "By God, I have never seen such determination from a person who had lost his sons, his family and his followers." None possessed a stronger spirit or more courage than he. By God, I have never seen anyone like him. Hussein dispersed any attack from the right or the left flank as the goats flee when the wolf pounces upon them. After fighting off the enemy courageously, the Imam was overcome by his wounds. The heat of the scorching desert and the thirst for water began to take their toll. He stood for a moment to regain his strength. At that instant, he was attacked by all angles. A three-pronged arrow pierced his holy chest. With this, Imam Hussein fell to his knees. The unforgiving, merciless army continued with their savage attack. As Imam Hussein was drawing his last breath, Lady Zainab cried out, "O Umar, should Abu Abdullah be killed as you look on?" He turned his face away. She replied, "Woe unto you! Is there any Muslim man among you?" None answered her. Then Amr ibn Sa'ad shouted to his army, "Alight and put him to rest." Al-Shimr approached the Imam and was the first to do so. He kicked the Imam with his foot and then sat on his chest and took hold of his holy beard. He dealt him 12 sword strokes. He then severed his sacred head. As the Imam lay lifeless, the enemy plundered and looted his possessions. One of the enemies took his cloak, another his shirt, another his sword, one more his trousers and sandals. Imam Hussein's body lay bare on the sand of Karbala. To God we belong, and to him we shall return. This station centers around the replica of a burnt tent from the camp of Imam Hussein. It is used as the visual representation of the aftermath of the Battle of Karbala. Although the battle had seemingly ended on the plains of Karbala, historians narrate that the real tragedy was the events that came to follow. The women and children were taken as prisoners, along with the ailing son of the Imam, the 22-year-old Ali, who was now the rightly appointed fourth Imam. The journey to Sham began after the Battle of Karbala. Umar ibn Sa'ad wanted to project his victory, so sent the sacred head of Imam Hussein and the remainder of the caravan of Zainab and Imam Sajjad to Ibn Ziyad, who was located at the palace of Kufa. He wasted no time in doing so, and the march towards Kufa began on Ashura afternoon. The vile Ibn Sa'ad and his army also severed the heads of his own comrades who had died in order to send them to Kufa to be distributed to various tribes in order for them to gain the favor of Ibn Ziyad. After Umar ibn Sa'ad's army departed from Karbala, some of the Banu Asad went to Karbala to bury their dead. They did not mark any of the graves apart from Imam Hussein's, which was marked with a simple plant. Later, Ali ibn al-Hussein returned to Karbala to identify the grave sites. Historians narrate that Hur was buried by his tribe, afar from the battlefield. The journey from Karbala to Kufa was carried out so that Ibn Sa'ad could confirm his victory to Ibn Ziyad, who in turn would inform Yazid ibn Muawiyah of their conquest. The powerful words of Lady Zainab upon entering Kufa still ring in the ears of people until today. Lady Zainab asked for people to be quiet, and after praising Allah and Prophet Muhammad, she said, "O people of Kufa, O you deceivers, O you who break your pledges and retreat back, you traitors, may the cries never end and the tears never diminish. You are like the woman who painstakingly and with great labor twines a strong rope, and then herself unwinds it, thereby wasting her effort and energy. Your false pledges contain no element of truth and sincerity. O people of Kufa, woe be upon you! Do you know which part of the Messenger of Allah you have cut, and which vow you have broken, and whose blood you have shed, and which respected family you have brought to the public as captives, and whose sanctity you have violated? You have done that which could tear down the skies, open the earth, and make the mountains vanish. As far as the earth goes, and as deep as the sky goes, your obvious deed has no like, no similarity, and no decency. Indeed, you have done the ugliest, the most grievous and gruesome deed. After Ibn Ziyad had confirmed the victory, he then ordered the caravan of prisoners to be sent to Damascus for Yazid to pursue his judgment. The prisoners of Karbala were taken through many cities on their way to Damascus, on the orders of Yazid and Ibn Ziyad. As they were nearing Aleppo, or Halab, as it is called in Arabic, a Christian monk who lived there could see lights emanating from the head of Hussein upwards towards the sky. When the caravan stopped for rest, the monk approached them and asked if he could take the head for the night in exchange for 10,000 dirhams that he had with him. When they agreed, the monk took the head and placed it on a stone, whereon blood from the head fell onto it. In the morning, he returned the head and professed Islam. This version of events can be found written on a plaque within the mosque itself. The mosque still exists in Aleppo today, and it was referred to as the Mosque of the Drop, or Masjid al-Nuqta. Lady Zainab assumed the responsibility of turning the defeat of Karbala into a victory that can never be denied by projecting her emotions in front of anybody that warranted it. In her sermon, Lady Zainab warned Yazid, son of Muawiyah, about the hereafter and said,
وصلى الله على رسوله وآله أجمعين صدق الله سبحانه حيث يقول ثم كان عاقبة الذين أساءوا السوء أن كذبوا بآيات الله وكانوا بها يستهزئون أظننت يا يزيد حيث أخذت علينا أقطار الأرض وآفاق السماء فأصبحنا نساق كما تساق الإماء أن بنا على الله هوانا وبك عليه كرامة وأن ذلك لعظم خطرك عنده فشمخت بأنفك ونظرت في عطفك جذلان مسرورا حين رأيت الدنيا لك مستوسقة والأمور متسقة وحين صفى لك ملكنا وسلطاننا فمهلا مهلا لا تطش جهلا أنسيت قول الله تعالى ولا يحسبن الذين كفروا إنما نملي لهم خيرا لأنفسهم إنما نملي لهم ليزدادوا إثما ولهم عذاب مهين أمن العدل يا ابن الطلقاء تخديرك حرائرك وإماءك وسوقك بنات رسول الله سبايا نعم نعم هنا زينب ذكرته بأصله عندما أطلق رسول الله جده أبا سفيان وأباه معاوية بعد أن أسروا في فتح مكة قال اذهبوا أنتم الطلقاء ثم التفتت إليه يزيد ولئن جرت علي الدواهي مخاطبتك. الله أكبر، من هوان الدنيا على زينب أن تخاطب هذا الرجس. ولئن جرت علي الدواهي مخاطبتك إني لأستصغر قدرك وأستعظم تقريعك وأستكثر توبيخك، لكن العيون عبرا والصدور حرا. ألا فالعجب كل العجب لقتل حزب الله النجبا بحزب الشيطان الطلقا. فهذه الأيدي تنطف من دمائنا، أي تقطر من دمائنا، والأفواه تتحلب من لحومنا، أي تسيل دما من أكل لحمنا. وتلك الجثث الطواهر الزواكي تنتابها العواسل وتعفرها أمهات الفاعل. ولئن اتخذتنا مغنما لتجدن وشيكا مغرما، حين لا تجد إلا ما قدمت يداك، وما ربك بظلام للعبيد. فإليه الله المشتكى وعليه المعول. فكد كيدك واسع سعيك وناصب جهدك، فوالله لا تمحو ذكرنا ولا تميت وحينا ولا تدرك أمدنا ولا ترحض عنك عارها، أي لا تغسل عار عملك إلى يوم القيامة ولا ترحض عنك عارها. وهل رأيك إلا فند وأيامك إلا عدد وجمعك إلا بدد، يوم ينادي المنادي ألا لعنة الله على الظالمين.
After the hearing in the court of Yazid, the prisoners were held in Damascus for a year. During this year, some prisoners died of grief, including Ruqayya, the beloved daughter of Imam Hussein. The people of Damascus began to frequently visit the prison, and Zainab and Ali ibn al-Hussein used this as an opportunity to further propagate the message of Hussein and explain to the people the reason for Hussein's uprising. As public opinion against Yazid began to change in Syria and parts of Iraq, Yazid ordered the prisoners to be released. They returned to Medina, where they continued to tell the world of Hussein's cause. Upon their return to Medina, they also came across al-Banin, the mother of sons. This was the mother of Abu Fadl al-Abbas. It must be noted that al-Banin lost 4 of her sons on the day of Ashura.